Revenge, the sweetest morsel to the mouth that ever was cooked in hell.
Here we go.
Honeycomb's big. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not small. No, no, no.
Kiss my entire ass.
Oh, my darling, knock 3 times on the ceiling if you want me.
I'm gonna get a cappuccino soon. I'm gonna strangle somebody.
So just sit right down, relax, open your ears real wide and say, give it to me straight, doctor. I can take it.
Get the chops out from under the wheels. Flats up. No offense, Margaret. Contact. We're off. Rum, rum.
Doctor, doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you.
That doctor is in, babies. Good morning. It's time for a morning rant about inspiration. I don't know who needs to hear this. My signal is weak. Give it a second. It'll boost up. Let me check my connection. There it goes. I don't know why it does that sometimes. So I made a video about this over on my Fine Art channel years ago. And I teach it in my art class all the time. Well, thank you, Bo. Thank you. Thank you. You'll hear a lot of people who are creators talk about inspiration. And, you know, I don't paint or draw because I wasn't feeling inspired. So I'm going to lock you in on something here. Inspiration, the way they're describing it, is a feeling. It's an emotion. And that's cool, but it doesn't have any bearing on the fact that if you're a professional artist or a professional writer or a creator, you got to do the work, whether you feel like it or not. So what I tell every student I've ever taught is just paint, just draw, warm up, do something. The moment you start engaging that creative part of your brain, the motivation will happen and the inspiration will come. It doesn't always mean the thing you're currently doing when you start out is going to be, you know, the next Mona Lisa. It just means that you're kicking in that part of your brain that creates things. If you're a writer, same thing. Just start writing random dialogue that pops into your head or a scene description that pops into your head. Just ramble on the page. Because that part of your brain that is the creative part is going to kick in. Then just shift it over to your current project, whatever that may be. But what you can't do is avoid the work. The mark of a professional is doing the work whether you feel like it or not. You got to clock in every day if you're a professional artist, and you work because it's a job. It's either a job or you're not a pro. It's that simple. It's like, man, I used to draw years ago, but I can't get myself back into it. Yeah, and I would just encourage you, Bone, just pick up a sketch pad and start drawing. Don't have an end goal in mind. Just start drawing. And then as that part of your brain kicks in, you just move in. Yeah. I remember one time, true story. This was back in the early days of the internet, back when AOL was the thing. I was on the phone with somebody and I was on hold forever. So I just started doodling at my desk with some colored pens. And I'm talking about ballpoint pens, not professional art pens. And I ended up drawing this really fantastic rose without really even thinking about it. You know, it's just a doodle that's happening while I'm talking on the phone. I'm on hold, transfer over here. And so I posted that rose. And it made the rounds around the internet. People were sending it. You know, back then that was the thing when guys were trolling, trying to pick up girls on AOL, which was the stupidest shit ever. But they would send that rose. And eventually that rose made its way back around to me. I'm like, well, I fucking drew that. That's mine. But that's just an example. You know, you engage that part of your brain to get to work. If you are a carpenter, you're building a house, framing in a house, you can't stand around and tell the contractor, I'm just waiting for inspiration to hit before I go over here and do this. No, it's your job. Start swinging the hammer, cut the wood, drive the nails, do what you got to do. It is not any different with art. A surgeon shows up. He can't say, I don't feel like doing this surgery. That's the job, and somebody's life is at stake. You're going to do the job. You've got to. Yes, absolutely. A lot of people can do a lot of fantastic work with ballpoint pens. True that. So the question then becomes, what if I start doing that and nothing comes out, nothing happens? You know, what if you're drained? William Intricate and I were talking about this. There is a finite amount of that creative energy that you have as a creator. Just like there's social energy, you can get worn out from talking to people. You need some quiet time, you need some downtime. Physically, you can get worn out from doing exhaustive work, or you go work out. You need to go rest. Mentally, you've studied, you've been working on a paper you've got to present, or you're in my case, I'm a counselor and I've been working cases all day long. You got to mentally decompress. But it's the same thing with the creative process. You just got to decompress a little bit. But then you get back to it again, treating it like it's a job. So what is the job of a creator? To create. You are pulling from your own mind as the resource to create a product to share with other people. And you hope that other people will like your project, whatever it is, a painting, a sculpture, a comic book, a book, doesn't matter. But you are creating it from whole cloth. You know, you're not editing together like my little intro video where I cobble together other people's stuff. That's fun to do, and it's a little bit creative, but it's not creating from whole cloth. So to fill up that well from which you draw, I suppose you would say, ironically, you got to do more, because the more you do, the more you can do. Think about going to the gym again. When you first go to the gym and you start working out, maybe you can't lift all that much, but the more you do it, the more you can do it. The more you lift, the more you can lift. The longer you run, the longer you can run. So the more you create, the more you can create. But that's only part of the process. Okay, creating the thing is not enough, particularly in the arts. It's not enough to make art. You got to be prolific at it, and you must be proficient at it. But then you got to show it to people, and that means get your artwork and yourself out there. Have a YouTube channel, build an audience. Go to galleries, hang your work in the galleries, hang your artwork anywhere somebody will let you hang it, where people gather. You've got to be seen. Nobody is out there waiting for you to appear. You know, boy, I can't wait till that John Smith just really awakens his inner artist and comes out here and takes the world by storm. No, they're not doing that. They've got to see it first. So you got to get out there in front of people. Part 3 of that process is, I call it be nice, but it's really stand behind your product, deliver what you say you're going to deliver, when you're going to deliver it. You're going to communicate with your clients, plural or singular. I had a collector that commissioned me, and he paid through the nose for this, because I typically don't like to paint man-made things, houses, buildings, cars, whatever. When I paint, I like raw landscape, just nature. Those organic shapes are much more appealing to me. But one of my collectors said, and this guy had a mansion, and he was, I want a painting in your style of my home, and I want a large one, at least 24 by 36. And I said no at first. But here's a motivator for you: money. He threw enough money at me where I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. So I went out and I took some photos in the morning light of his home, and the morning light wasn't the best. So I came back in the afternoon golden hour and I got that. Okay, there it is. And I painted it and I did a good job and I delivered it, and he paid me, because the money's a motivator. I'll never forget that painting. It was 4 digits, and it was high 4 digits of money. That very week that he was negotiating with me, the hot water heater went out, the washing machine or the dryer, I don't remember which, went out, and my truck needed some repairs. And I was like, well, son of a bitch, those are 3 hits to the savings account, or I can do this painting and pay for all of that. So that's a no-brainer. You got to do the work. If you are a penciler in a comic book and you're work for hire, and someone hires you to do pages, then your pages are you printing your own money. Every time I do this page, it's $150 or $200. Let me do this work and get it to where it needs to be, because I want to eat. I want to be a pro. I'm paying my bills with my art. That story was a couple of years ago. I was almost done, but I rushed at the end. You think I can erase and start over? Yeah. And that is that is an unfortunate part about doing the illustration with ink. And that's an advantage, right? That's an advantage that digital painters or digital artists have over traditional. We used to call it the 5th panel curse. You do an amazing page, you get to the last panel and you screw it up. Well, you're not going to redraw the whole page. You're going to redraw that panel and paste it on. Literally, back in the day, cut, paste. Digital, they can just, they can undo, reshape, whatever. I got to try that, because what a time saver that is, right? But in painting, you can't screw a painting up. You just keep painting till you get what you want. If it's oil, you just keep pushing the paint away around until you get what you want. If you screw it up and you turn it muddy, you just get your palette knife and you scrape it off and you go again. If it's acrylic, you wait 5 seconds, it'll dry, you paint over it. So you can't screw a painting up. Now, watercolor, I'm pretty sure you can screw up, and you got to start over. But again, it's just paint. Nobody dies. It's just ink. Nobody's going to die. So you just do the best you can do with what you got. And if it works out, then congratulations, you did what you set out to do. If it doesn't work out, you do it again. I was talking to Dillard, John Dillard, yesterday, and we talked about this. You can't get married to bad ideas. If your drawing is flat or lifeless in a comic book that's action-based, you can't have that. You can't get married to it and go, okay, I'll just render it so well that it's like this breathtaking drawing, but it's just a guy standing there going, pew, pew. No, you want, you got to have that motion, that dynamic. And you've really got to divorce yourself from bad ideas. If, I think one of the problems people run into, particularly with illustration, is once upon a time I did this drawing and it looked like this, and everybody oohed and awed over it, and I got that dopamine hit, So I'll just do that again, and I'll do it again and again and again. No, if you're not evolving, you're already dead in the water. You've got to constantly be developing your storytelling, your skill, your precision, your angles, your layers, your excuse me, your dynamics in your art, or you're not going anywhere. So, it's a process. All art is. Writers can't use the same tropes over and over and over again. I remember Louis Grizzard he wrote a book about his time as a newspaperman, and he was the sports editor for the Chicago Sun. And he told this much older than he was, sports columnist, stop using so many cliches. And the guy said, but Louis, they're my cliches. They weren't cliches when he first used them. He invented them. And that's something to think about. But what Louis is, from his point of view, was, you got to evolve. You got to grow. You can't just keep leaning on the same old thing. The one-trick pony artists, you can't do that. The creative process, therefore, requires almost endless research. I used the example yesterday. John and I were talking about, how do you show somebody in love or attracted to someone? There's one or two things in the little Rolodex of your mind you think of. But don't be afraid to go over to Looney Tunes and look at the wolf seeing the pretty girl, ooh, and the eyes bug out of his head and his body motion. I'm not saying draw that when you're trying to draw something realistic. I'm saying let that inspire you to lean into something a little bit different from what you would normally do. When there's just conversation happening on page, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some books are text heavy and kind of drama versus action. So you're going to have a lot of interpersonal interaction. Change your angles, change the lighting, take a page out of Frank Miller's book, lean heavy into the inking, whatever it may be, but make it interesting, make it serve the story that you're telling. Likewise, if you're a writer, don't write so constrictive that you smother your artist. Let your artist have room to expand your vision. And, in that, it requires communication. You got to talk to each other. Whenever I'm working for someone now, we talk. We go back and forth with ideas, and that's the genesis. That's the moment of impetus of creation, is when those two thoughts come together and they gel into one idea. Back in the day, by the way, when I first started doing this in the 90s, there wasn't much of that because long distance was a thing. Your long distance bill could be as much as a mortgage payment. Not even kidding. And everything was done through faxes, FedEx, and telephone calls. And it was a pain in the ass. But back then, the writer really had to trust the artist, because you're mailing that script out and you're not going to see anything from that until it's done and it comes back to you. So it is all part of the process. Let me see. I'm getting messages here. It's weird, man. It's the same time every day around 10 or 11, my messages start blowing up. Oh, speaking of which, do I even know this person? One of my collectors, speak of the devil. Yes, I will call you back. You want to pay me a few $1,000s to do a painting, you are moved immediately to the front of the line. Good morning, Lee. Good to see you. So, as I light this cigarette, that's my cue to myself later when I download this video and edit it to end there, because that's the end of the speech about creativity, about motivation, about inspiration. That's the facts of life. Yeah. Hello, TJ. Well, don't just leave a like and say hi. Hang out. Talk to the doctor. More than one person has now come to me. It's not a secret. I was a counselor. They're like, you should totally do a show where you do a live session with somebody, and with the disclaimer for entertainment purposes only. And I kind of entertain the idea of that because it's educational, it's fascinating, it might help somebody, you never know. But at the same time, when you're doing therapy, it's very real. It's very real shit can come out that people don't always want to come out. A good therapist, typically the client or the patient will say, they get more out of you than you ever intended to give. I don't need that to happen. That opens up a Pandora's box of badness. So that's going to be a hard pass. I'm not doing sessions live. That's trouble I don't need. Wait, what is this? I don't even know. I don't understand Twitter. Like it says, replying to Doc and Matt Krotz. And and then congratulations and sweet. What are they replying to? I don't know. Matt Krotz says, you're next, Doc. I'm like, but I don't know what that means. What are we referring to? Twitter is confusing. I'm old. Speak plainly to me. I'm a boomer. So this morning, I was setting up back there to work, and I started work about 6 this morning. Editing some pages. And I got to sneeze. Hold on a second. I hope I didn't kill anybody with that. Yeah, it is. Except this is a good friend of mine, so I don't know what it means. But I was back there working, and I was physically fatigued. Some of y'all know a few years ago I had a pretty bad injury to my right hand, and I'm right-handed. 3 breaks in my wrist and hand and 2 in the elbow. And I didn't let it heal. I cut the cast off early because I had artwork I had to get out the door. So I pay the bills. So consequently, it never healed properly. So after a period of time of doing this, it doesn't bother me with painting. That's big, loose motions. This, though, is actually tense all through. You're locked and you're rigid. And so, I was hurting. And I thought, well, I'll take a break. I'll take a couple of ibuprofen. I'll be good. Okay, click on it. I'll do that. But I took the medication, and I'm letting my arm rest, so I'll head back out on it here shortly. Let's see. All right, he says click on it. All right, clicked. And all it does is take me to what the guy posted. That doesn't help me. Look, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you. And maybe you guys can teach me how to use Twitter. Share screen. There's my boy Pops talking to me. So I don't mind showing. All right. So I come over to Twitter. I click on notifications because it was lit up. And there's this. And congratulations. Sweet. So I click on it. Oh, I guess it's this. I'm in Bleeding Fool this week. Well, that's cool. But then when I do this, I go up here and I click on this one, nothing happens. There's nothing there. Oh, okay. I see now. Matt posted that he made it to 5 figures on Kyrie. I said, congratulations. And he says, you're next. And I said, what happened? Okay. I think I understand it a little bit better now. Boomerism. I have them. It does sound like a threat. You're next, Doc. Yeah, what did I do? More messages. Hold on a second here. My goodness, my goodness. So, moving off of that topic, because I finished that topic, I was watching Anthony's Toke Time and Chill last night. Just had it on in the background while I was working. And there was a guy on there I don't know, somebody Miller, not the Miller, just a different Miller. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And my boy Brian Criscal popped on there. And some kind of heated ass fight broke out. I don't even know what they were fighting about because, you know, that's just noise. I'm just blocking it out doing the work. But it was unusual for me to hear my friend Brian Criscal angry because he's normally a very pleasant, jocular person. He's like me. He's really easygoing. He's rah! And it turns out they were arguing at some kind of socio-political thing. Who knows? I don't even care. But my thought went, I'm glad I didn't go down that road when I first showed up in the community and running my YouTube channel. I don't do that stuff. If you come in here and you start shit posting all over me, I'm just going to show you the door. Because life is too short to waste energy on fighting with people. No one ever changes anybody's mind in Facebook arguments or social media arguments. It just doesn't happen. You know, Pop said the other day, yes, it does. Some people saw the whole January 6th footage that Tucker Carlson released. And yeah, it plainly shows that the dude he wasn't violent, that he was being escorted and led through the building by the police. They opened doors for him and they weren't outnumbered. There were at one point 9 cops and him, and they just, hey, how you doing? And he went on where he was going. And that changed some minds, maybe, but that's the evidence changing people's minds. That's not arguing, changing anybody's mind. That back and forth that people do. Now, I have a friend who is a Democrat, and we, hey, Pops, and we will debate on Facebook issues, but he's a friend, so it never becomes ad hominem. We don't yell, we don't attack each other. And the one thing that it does do is it shows people that you can disagree and still be friends. Because we usually end it with, you know, when are you coming over for coffee? Or the wife made a brisket. Why don't you come over and get some? You know, and people go, whoa, you know, you two differ this strongly, but you're still friends. Yes, because believe it or not, you can disagree with people and still be friends. So there's that. Yeah, Pops, you know how to get in here if you want to come in. Absolute waste of energy, Lee. Absolute. One thing I got to do here in a minute is put on another pot of coffee. We, Tacey and I share a pot first thing in the morning. We get up at 4:30 if we sleep late. And we have a pot of coffee. She heads out the door at like 5:20. And that pot's gone. I put on another one. That's my wake up. Because Tacey gets a big ass Yeti full. So it's almost the whole pot. And I get like 1 cup out of that. So then when she's gone, I make another pot. And that's for me. Good morning, Pops.
All right, since you insisted, I'll come out for a minute.
But I'll make that second pot of coffee, and I have that one to myself. That's the wake up coffee. The third pot, the one I'm about to make, that's my sip and work. You know, that's the sustenance coffee. What's your coffee situation looking like there, brother?
I actually have some. I am feeling the camera, so
don't blame you. Let me turn it down a little bit.
I did want to look a couple months ago on Steel Token. They had the actor from Viking Valhalla, right? And dude, the dude intrigued me. I figured I'm gonna go check this one out, right? So I've been watching it, and this is pretty good shit. It's about Leif Erikson,
Right.
I mean, he's the highlight character, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I've been digging it so far. I hate to say I'm looking at something on Netflix and liking it, but what can I tell you?
Let's see. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm just now getting around to watching Better Call Saul. So, because I'm not really a TV watcher, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, me neither. But while since I've been recovering from being sick,
Yeah.
I've
mean,
been
I'll get
taking
it.
a little bit of time off for myself so I don't
Yeah.
get sick right away again.
I'll get into stuff. I couldn't believe I got into Downton Abbey, but I did. It was really well written, and good writing will always pull you in. Let's see, what was the other one? Yeah, I got into Game of Thrones. I wasn't gonna, because I did not appreciate the comparison with Tolkien, because nothing compares to Tolkien. But I got into it and I liked it. I enjoyed it. Now, having never read the books, I didn't know how bad they screwed up the last season. But yeah, apparently they screwed the pooch pretty bad.
Look, they quit paying attention to the book after book 2.
Yeah, well, apparently he hadn't even written the ending yet of that saga.
Oh, they did. Look, they just let's just rush through this, get this out there real quick, get this ending. It was horrible.
Yeah, when you diverge from the creator's vision is when you run into trouble. Same thing with this Amazon Lord of the Rings thing, that the only thing it had in common with Tolkien is some of the names. That was not at all his vision. Bone says the last season was terrible and I didn't read the books. Yeah, it was not all that good. Let's see. I'm the most overloading guy you're going to find, but I appreciate folks like you and Pops. Good people. I'm a grown ass man. I can scroll past. Exactly. I really liked, there's a great scene in Game of Thrones when Jon Snow first meets Daenerys, and she's on her throne and her seneschal throws out all her time. She's the unburnt, the chain breaker, the mother of dragons. She's this, that, and the other. And then Jon Snow's guy goes, "This is Jon Snow."
Yeah.
Perfect.
Nothing, Jon Snow. That's my favorite
right.
line. My favorite line of the whole show. You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Yeah, but you got to admit that's perfect writing. Here's Daenerys with her whole long list of titles, and Jon Snow's done just as much. Born a bastard, he does all this, and the guy just goes, "This is Jon Snow." There's an abundance of humility, and at the same time, if you know, right? What volumes that spoke into the silence. I love that.
Yeah, well, I watched it. I suffered through the last season. Okay, because it was what the hell are you doing to this series? Every episode was are you really trying to kill this thing before it dies? What are you doing? Yeah, it was just bad upon bad.
But there were lots of good character arcs in the series. I haven't read the books, so I can't speak to it. But watching,
and it was written from the point of view of each of those different characters. Yeah. A chapter would be from this person's point of view. I think if I remember correct, and then the next part would be from somebody else's point of view and what they were doing. And
yeah,
it was. I mean, look. The first few books were really well written. If you can read a long ass book like that, I can't.
I'm a reader.
I read the whole Wheel of Time. I'm all the Dune shit. I freaking read it all. Dude.
Let me tell you this. I almost beat up my friend for recommending Wheel of Time to me. That was one of the worst long things I've ever seen. And I remember saying to my buddy, it's like, you get the idea of this guy, what's his name, Jordan?
Yeah, Robert Jordan.
Yeah, Robert Jordan secretly wears dresses at night because it is impossible that every society on a planet developed as a matriarchal society. All of them. Everything male is flawed and
What's up,
terrible.
Pale Rider?
What's up, PayPal? And it never went anywhere. The characters didn't have any arcs. There was no development. It was just a big ass world building word salad, and I hated it. On the other hand, little Arya Stark's arc, where she starts off as just this little tomboy sister, and she turns into one of the world's best assassins. Awesome story arc. Jaime Lannister, he's this incestuous perv. You hate him. He's a horrible person.
The redemption character.
He beats Big Brianna, and he has his redemption. That's a great story arc. You've got the rise, the fall, and the rise again of Jon Snow. There's just and particularly my favorite character, the Hound. He is unrepentantly bad, but there's an underlying goodness to him. There's lines he won't cross, and they're few and far between, but they're there. And it makes him such an intriguing character.
Yeah, he has a code.
Yeah. I love it when he finally says, fuck the war, fuck the city, fuck the king, and he leaves. I'm out. This has crossed a line I don't care to cross. I'm out of here. And his single driving purpose in life is he's going to kill his brother. That's it. That's all he's living for. And there's a bit of that in my character, Elizabeth. All she's living for is the kill. Along the way, for whatever reason, he has a soft spot for both of the Stark girls. He offers to save Sansa. He does save Arya, even if he has to slap her upside the head to do it. He saves her repeatedly. She leaves him for dead and robs him. And he still protects her to the very end. That was a good arc.
Yep.
So yeah, over that. Am I on your StreamYard this morning, Pops?
You're in our studio, but you're only on your channel.
Yeah, but it's your StreamYard, right? I'm just making sure I don't burn up my last 10
I can't just jump into yours.
Well, I don't know these things. I'm a boomer. I don't know how any of this works. But yeah, typically if I'm going solo and I'm going to rant about something, I make sure I don't bring our sponsors into it. So I just go out on my channel. That way, if I say something offensive, they only come after me, not the network.
Do you know our sponsors, Doc?
Yes. Do you know me? Occasionally.
This is what I'm saying. They know who we are.
Occasionally,
they know who we are.
Occasionally, I've been known to get a little spicy. Yeah, Littlefinger and what was the eunuch's name? What was the
man, I can't remember.
bald eunuch's name?
Yeah, I know, Baltris or something like. I can't remember.
Yeah, and of course, everybody loves the little guy, whatever the hell his name was. Great arcs, great characters.
Look, my favorite scene in the whole thing was when little dwarf dude shot his daddy with a crossbow on the toilet.
You tried to kill me. Yeah, and that's that gratification payoff.
Was like, yeah, take that, motherfucker. Don't challenge me. I'm your son. Who the fuck?
That's a payoff. As the writer, occasionally you got to pay off the dynamic tension between characters. There's been this oppressive hate coming from the dad, and the dad's a monster and he's horrible, and he has this kind of lawful good, if you will, vision of how things ought to be, and he's willing to sacrifice everything for that, including his sons. But the one son said, that's enough of that shit. You're
No,
horrible.
the one son said, "You did what to the girl I love?"
Yeah. Yeah. You are a horrible person and you're going to die. And the viewer / reader goes, yes. That's
I just thought it was hilarious. It was like, dude challenged him and he just went like, chunk.
Yeah. Yeah. There was never going to be a doubt. Lord Tyrion. There was no doubt in Tyrion's mind what was going to happen on that shitter.
Yeah.
Maybe the big dad thought, I can talk my way out of this. I can whatever. Nope. And yeah, Littlefinger was a good character. He was a manipulative bastard. But you see him and Lord Varys, they're almost in the same trade. They're both information gatherers. They're CIA.
Thinking I know things. That's Tyrion's game.
Yeah, they both know things, and that using information for a purpose. But remember that Varys was using it for the people, not the king, not the kingdom, the people. And Littlefinger was using it for himself. And we saw they both died horribly. I don't think Daenerys should have killed fucking what's his name, but I think that's when they went off script, wasn't it?
Oh, I think they went off script before that.
Well, I'm given to understand that the first 3 seasons pretty much stayed with the books, and then it kind of started drifting away.
It was just like
I did not.
It just got harder to watch for me with every season.
I did not enjoy the when they go north of the wall. That shit was not enjoyable to me. It was boring. Let the mystery of the threat live on the other side of that wall. Don't go explore it and show it and shine a flashlight on it. I don't want to see that shit.
Well, that was the fire and ice part of it. See?
Yeah, I still don't want to. I don't need to know the mystery. Let the mystery be the mystery. Let it build tension.
Without somebody knowing what the actual threat was and coming back and saying something.
Right. Like, yeah, you see Frodo and Sam go into Mordor, but it's a very micro view of it. It's just their view. You don't see Sauron in his throne talking to the Nazgul going, here's my plot. Here's what we're going to do. It wasn't necessary. You just let the evil be the evil. It's out there. You're aware of it, but you're right here in your little world just doing the best you can to get through. And that's Frodo and Sam going through Mordor, right? I didn't need to see Jon Snow go and worm his way into the camp of the King of the North or whatever the fuck it was, King Beyond the Wall. I didn't need all that. That was unnecessary to me. But that's just my taste. Maybe people loved it. I don't know. I do remember thinking that when Daenerys came across the sea, she got 3 fire-breathing dragons. These are ice people. Those two things don't go. Those two things don't typically go well together. And it just seemed to me that Daenerys and her 3 dragons could have just nuked them all.
Yeah, well, that worked until they killed one of the dragons, and now they got an ice dragon. Oh shit!
Yeah, but again, that felt like plot convenience. How can we weaken that position that Daenerys has? Well, we'll take one of her dragons and make it undead. That was a big lump of plot convenience. I didn't care for that.
And you got to leap to that too.
You got what now?
They were making everything. I say you got to leap to that, but at the same time, they were making everything else dead and rise. So,
yeah, it was there. They had the mechanism to do it, and the writers took advantage of that. But I don't know if that's in the books or not. Somebody that's read them will have to tell me.
I don't think I went that far.
I've never read them. I'm such a picky reader, man. I mean, shit's got to be really well written for me to get into it. And I'm given to understand that whatever his name is, George R.R. Martin, is a good writer, just slow as shit. But every writer is. Every writer is. Stephen Rush has been writing the Vlad Taltos cycle since 1986, and it's still not done. And we're all waiting on, because there's a total of 18 books, and I think there's 3 to go. And if he doesn't hurry the fuck up with it, he's going to die before he finishes it.
And then somebody like Brandon Sanderson or whatever had to come in and write the last book.
It was, and listen,
then hold up, Doc. And then like 5 years, 10 years later, that same Brandon Sanderson will launch something on Kickstarter one day that totally breaks the system.
Yeah.
And he did.
There's
he launched that book that day. I think it was the same day as Alpha Dogs and something else, and it just broke Kickstarter that day. Made millions of dollars, and just broke their shit for a few hours, right?
Yeah.
Dude.
There was I don't know what happened to Tom Clancy. No one knows how he died. It's just he died. Too bad. But he had these guys that were coming in and ghost writing some of his properties. And where it started to fall apart, the last book that Clancy exclusively wrote was The Bear and the Dragon. After that, he co-wrote with a couple people, and page by page, scene by scene, you could tell what Clancy wrote and what somebody else wrote. And it's like, the ultimate Jedi with a Padawan writer. The difference is so stark you can't miss it. And I did not care for anything in the Tom Clancy, it's called the Ryan-O-verse, the Jack Ryan universe. Anything he didn't write in that is terrible. It's awful. So I quit. I gave up after 2 of the books, Locked and Loaded and something else.
Yeah, I don't read those kind of books.
Oh, I do. I love the shit
I read sci-fi and fantasy and all, swords and sorcery and all that kind of shit. But man, pretty much all. Look, if you read any of the old stuff, PT 109, all the old war books and shit, man, then I've read it. I know what they're gonna say. I mean,
you don't with Tom Clancy.
Yeah, you kind of do. But
no, you don't.
Every time I read one of them books, it's like I would start it and I'd be like, man, I already know how this is gonna end.
No, you don't.
Pretty much that's what happened every time.
I beg to differ. Clancy.
Well, you might not have seen it. That doesn't mean I didn't.
Oh, for goodness sakes. What I'm saying is you won't find tropes or cliches in Clancy's writing. He takes that shit and turns it down, divides, conquers, leaves it fried dry and lays it aside, and will rattle your brain with his writing. I still, to this day, one of the best books you will ever read, boys and girls.
I don't think the dogs agree.
Get you a copy of Without Remorse by Tom Clancy. And you talk about it in raptured read. First of all, it's this thick, but you don't want to put it down. You want to read it in one go. You can't, but you want to. Any writer that commands that kind of attention from me is doing something right. Because I ain't no dummy. And typically, like Pop said, I can see through the plots of movies and TV shows and whatever. When a writer can take me along for the ride like that, it's worth the ride. So that's Without Remorse by Tom Clancy. Of course, all of his books were great. Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, Cardinal of the Kremlin. They're all good. Executive Orders, he predicted, Tom Clancy twice predicted the future. At the end of Debt of Honor, a terrorist uses a plane and flies it into the Capitol, decapitating the government. Well, then 9/11 happened shortly thereafter, and by God, they were going to try to hit the Capitol too. They didn't. And then in Executive Orders, there's a pandemic that strikes the world.
I'm gonna have to go see what the mailman wants. I will probably talk to you later on, Doc.
Okay, buddy.
There's like stuff at the door. I gotta go.
All right, go get your goodies, man.
All right, peace.
Peace out. But Clancy predicted the lockdowns. What would it look like for the United States to have to lock down? Of course, in the book, it's a deliberate attack, and they figure it out, and bad things happen to the bad people, which led to his third prediction coming true, which was a second Gulf War. So, Clancy was so observant of the geopolitical that, he literally was writing into the future, and the shit comes to pass. He was asked in an interview one time about that. Did he feel guilty? Typical leftist question for suggesting the idea of planes as weapons of destruction. Did they not pay attention to kamikazes in World War II? This shit's been around forever. The Germans had a manned guided missile that wasn't a kamikaze. The guy was supposed to bail out and the missile go where it was going to go. But this stuff's been around forever. But it doesn't change the fact that he did predict with frightening accuracy the geopolitical. And it was just, there's something to do, man. Get yourself some Clancy, folks. All right. Pops is gone. Let me check. I get my messages are just blowing up here. Hold on. Oh, check my email. This guy said one of the contractors that's gonna doing some work for me. Okay, that's a thing that's going to happen. Okay. Hello got canceled. That's a good thing, because there's yet another property that they bastardized. Canceled after one season, and the headline on Yahoo is acclaimed. Excuse me. Acclaimed series. If you mean by acclaimed despised, then okay, I'll go with that. But anyway, I'm going for an hour, and this was just going to be a rant about the creative process. So I'm going to wrap this up and get my creative ass back there and create some more books. Copy that, brother. So on that note, I'm going to bounce on out of here. Chat, thanks for turning out. Pops, thanks for popping in. Thanks for listening. Let me play us out of here with something. What do we need? The one we always have to play. Here we go.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.